Yes, we are. It's another Wednesday, and today we get to know another wonderful impact maker, legacy builder, and more about that soon. But thank you so much for being part of our Legacy X group because there's so much of impact, so much of members who keep joining because they are seeking to build or become a person of influence, or you're looking to become a high performing leader and also to improve or garner more global connections and network. And it's amazing that we're doing the Put Your Dream to the Test challenge at the moment. So there'll be a new challenge starting 1st of May. So if you have a dream out there, if you really want to put it to the test, whether it's really your dream, whether you have clarity for your dream, whether you have the passion for your dream, whether that's your right pathway. Do you have the people, the right people in your team? And do you have the cost for getting your dream started? So we're going to be doing the Put Your Dream to the Test challenge soon. And if you have any questions in regarding our pillars, or if you want to know more about what we do at Leadership Roundtable or Legacy X, please feel free to sit with me and book a time. And I'm happy to go through that with you because whether it's your career progression or whether it's communication, presentation, especially for corporates and executives, or if it's for being an entrepreneur and scaling to that next level, please let me know. And it's my privilege and honor to actually be working with you on that. But today we have an amazing friend of mine who I had the opportunity to know, I would say close to 9 years now. So Joyce Khoo, she is a seasoned lawyer of 30 years, right? So a lot of experience that she brings. And also she's worked with Southern Cross Kids. I saw that. And we collaborated with Southern Cross Kids as well at the Light. And she's a visionary founder of JK Lawyers. So yes, JK stands for Joyce Khoo. So she's serving families, businesses, communities for over 25 years. And she's being a trusted legal expert, right? In family, in commercial, and charitable law. And Joyce, will help people navigate life's toughest challenges with wisdom and compassion. Because knowing her, she's a kingdom business owner. So she's very much founded in the kingdom principles, but her impact reaches far beyond the courtroom. A global humanitarian at heart because she's just catching a flight tomorrow to Tanzania. So you can imagine that she is a global humanitarian at heart. Joyce has championed community development projects from building toilets in Uganda, educating youths in Philippines, or to supporting medical missions in Cambodia, and also rehabilitation centers in Sri Lanka. She's also an international speaker, ordained minister, and a marriage mentor. And that's why she's here. So she's, through her experience being a divorced family lawyer to couples worldwide. So she'll be sharing transformative keys for harmony and love. So when she's not in court or on a mission, so you'll definitely find her cruising the coast on her motorbike or enjoying life with her husband Kenny and their two sons in Melbourne, who I had the opportunity of meeting. And thank you so much for having me at your home. And Joyce Khoo is a living proof that justice, love, and legacy can go hand in hand. So, friends, let us give a big round of virtual applause for our amazing speaker, Joyce Khoo. Welcome, Joyce.
Thank you very much, Jobby. You can hear me all right?
Yes,
Yes.
loud and clear.
Thank you. Thank you. It's wonderful to be on your show, Legacy X Proprietary Limited. It's definitely something that, on a divine level as well as on a horizontal level, it's a calling that all of us should have inside, built in as well as expressed through all the gifts and the talents and abilities that we have. So, Jobby, it's been amazing. I've known you for a few years now, and you've always been inspirational. Everything that you do, the community outreach, the creative edge to what you do, and how you bring people together and motivate people to do and to achieve, things that they would never imagine. So, it's your inspiration, and it's just a privilege and a pleasure to be here today. So good.
Absolutely, absolutely, Joyce. And when we had that chat, right? And I said like definitely knowing who you are, I want you to be one of our speakers. And we were discussing topics, and you said, Joby, do you know I've written a book? I said, yes, during COVID, I do remember, end of COVID. So, if I could ask you, Joyce, to kick us off, what inspired you to write Harmony for Couples, especially from the lens of both a divorce lawyer and an ordained minister? If you could share that with us.
Yeah, sure. So I started doing family law around about 1996, so almost 30 years now. I never wanted to be a divorce lawyer. I never believed in divorce, as you can imagine. We are pro keeping people together. We are pro promoting marriages, and it's almost like by whatever means you have, no divorce. Do what you can to make it work, right? So I actually had a little bit of a sensing, just thinking about it, you considering prayerfully. I just sensed that I have to be a divorce lawyer because this space, needs people who love God, love people, love the children, love the family, and try and make it work. So anyway, with 30 years of experience, and when I was writing that book, I started in July of 2019, finished it at the end of 2020, had it published. That book went through 22 drafts, and it's a bit of a fun book. Okay, so there's a bit of homework in there, there's a bit of advice, there's a bit of stories of my clients, there's a bit of links to tests that you can do. It's a bit of fun, it's a bit of humor, and I share a little bit about my own life growing up with the examples I saw, say, in my parents, in my aunties and uncles, and actually I wasn't keen to get married because it's very clear, even in today's society, there's a lot of pressure on marriage. But when I did law and when I went into courts and when I helped my clients, I actually saw themes. I saw that there were very clear repetitive or repeated themes that cause people to go down the spiral of self-destruction or self-explosive mess. Okay, and if people knew what to avoid, if people knew what are the trigger points to get them into a spiral of destruction, and they can do something about preventing that trigger, or they can do something about repairing or damage control, it would then lead the family ship away from destruction to resolution or to repair or to restoration. Yeah. So I thought to write a book. It probably COVID came around, and I felt, you know what, I'm stuck at home working from home. So I used to work during the day, and then after dinner I'll start writing on the book. So wrote the book. It was a huge effort because just had to make it right, make it last a long. You talk about legacy. So some books, it's only popular for a few years, but I wanted this book to last on a legacy basis, that you take it up 10 years later, you take up 20 years later, it is still applicable. And therefore it had to be written in a way that it can be for just even friendships. It can be for, de facto couples, married couples, already married, um, even couples who are going through divorce. It's very interesting. When I wrote it, one of the persons that did endorsement for me, he asked me for 3 chapters to send to his son in Norway, and the book was still in draft stage, and I was embarrassed. But he said, please send me anyway. So I gave him 3 chapters. He sent it to his son in Norway. The marriage had already broken down. Today, they're still together. So before it was published, a couple in Hong Kong, marriage restored. A couple in Sydney, marriage restored. One of my clients came in for divorce, and today they're still together. The husband is writing a will in favor of the wife, but they came in for divorce. So actually, the principles are pretty simple. To me, it's actually simple. But if you have people reading it, and you have a bit of comments, help me out. Put a Google review or put some Amazon review in there to help promote it, because it's meant to go everywhere. So yeah, last year I had the privilege of going to Kenya and Uganda in October and November, and I did a lot of marriage. They made me do a lot of marriage talks. And at the end of the talks, I then realized, wow, these are pastors of 50 churches or pastors of 1,000 people, but their marriage was on the rocks. Can you imagine? So a lot of people will keep it under wraps. Yeah, they keep it quiet that their marriage on the rocks. And they of course show that they're really doing well because they're looking after one church, 5, 10, 50 churches, 5,000 people, but they're struggling. I met a couple in Uganda. Yeah, Uganda. And he then came up and said to me, he and his wife, they quarrel 5 times a week, every week. And they look like respectable, they call them bishops over there, not even reverends, they're bishops because they run many churches, yeah. And I was very honest with them. I just spoke honestly. I said, look, this is what goes on in a marriage. This is the reality. And in fact, the quarrels are actually healthy. But if we can tone it down and learn communication skills, then we get rid of the quarrels and we still communicate because we are made so different. The female, the book, men are from Mars and women are from Venus. We are just totally opposite, but to the glory of God, God wants us to have harmony, even though we're extreme opposites, right? So we really need the help of God. We really need the Bible principles to make marriages work. But it's good for people to know that a lot of what they're going through is pretty normal. And if they had some coaching, if they had some tips or some guidelines and guideposts, they can make marriage work. They just have to find the right resources. So grab the book, Harmony for Couples, and I hope it'll bless your socks, and you have a bit of a smile with some of the chapters in there. There's even a chapter on sex. I think it's chapter 8. But yeah, I was told I have to write a chapter on sex. So it's a bit of fun.
Absolutely. So I've actually ordered through Amazon. So when I clicked through,
Fantastic.
there were very few books left, so it was giving me the very few books. So please do order it, or if you have a better solution, Joyce, just let us know at the end how we
Sure.
could grab
Yeah.
a copy. That'll be
Yeah, I've
amazing.
got copies. I've got printed copies I can autograph and send it out by post if anybody wants to get in touch with me or get in touch with Jobby and he'll let me
Yep,
know.
absolutely. And I'm sure we will be catching for coffee or lunch, and I definitely want an autograph
Uh,
book from you guys.
I'll look forward to that, Jobby.
That'll be amazing. I know you'll be back soon from Tanzania, so that'll be good. So, if I could ask, because you do work through a compelling question in the book, right? Like, why do seemingly perfect couples break down? So, what do you think could be the root causes in most cases? And especially because you're working with pastors of churches. So, what do you think could be the root cause for families breaking down?
I would say the main there's many causes, and I remember one of the churches I went to Uganda and I said, oh, people in the Western world, some of them get divorced because of snoring. And they got very upset with me. They felt that snoring should not be a root cause, yeah. I don't know how people feel. But one of the main problems is communication. So you got people who communicate in a certain way and you got other people who communicate. Now, some people don't even communicate. Like you know this movie, My Big Fat Greek Wedding. The British people are very quiet. And then the Greek people just talk, 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 and they express themselves. So that will cause problems if some people bottle it up inside. Some people actually think thoughts and they expect their partners to know what they're thinking. It doesn't work. We have to express ourselves. Now, some people express themselves very bombastically, very explosively, and that's not healthy. Some people yell. They feel that to get their way, they have to yell. So they come across like very narcissistic. And some people, when they communicate or like we say this, right? You have a responsibility for what you say, but I also have a responsibility for how you hear what I'm saying. So in communication, I need to ask you questions so that you can tell me what you're hearing. And I can say to you, no, 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 that's not what I meant. That's not what I said, because when people hear, they listen through filters. The filters can be another word, another synonym could be prejudices or biases. So I might have a cultural disposition that gives me a prejudice or bias. So when somebody says something to me, I run what I hear through the filters that I have, and final product is very different from what was actually said, right? So communication is a huge skill. And I think if
Mm,
couples can learn to communicate well, and go through the whole process of communication, like for example, so when I say something, right, I can then follow up with a question like, can you repeat to me what I've said? And whatever the person says, I can then correct. No, 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 I didn't mean that. Oh, yes, you're on point. That's exactly what I meant. And if the other person has a say, they can ask me to repeat what I hear. And and then when people are on the same page or they're of the same mind, that's where you have unity and that's where you have harmony. So if communication is bad or poor or lacking, immediately there may be a huge divide or a disconnect, and that's
mm,
where misunderstanding occurs. Then all the emotional, you know, mixture in the misunderstanding, then you get this huge explosion over popcorn, or huge explosion over something very silly like bean sprouts or something. But
mm,
it's a lot of fun, when you start to take this down. So maybe what we could do is a marriage retreat. Hey, bring people,
mm.
hey, have a bit of fun.
Absolutely, because that's where we are at, right? There's a lot of our, you could say, professionals, executives, business owners, entrepreneurs who are all trying to make it work for their family because they get into business for their family. But once you start a business, they get very busyness
Yeah.
and then they don't spend time with their family, they don't spend time with their loved ones. And that's where the cracks start opening up. And that's where, like you said, the communication and especially being an entrepreneur's spouse,
Mm.
that itself, requires a huge, I would say, mental toughness,
Yeah.
right?
You
Spiritual.
know, Bobby, there's so much in there when you talk about entrepreneurs and business executives, people in the C-suite or people in management. And I'll say this, right? In the 30 years that I've been a divorce lawyer, I've seen people bill. They bill over 20 years, they bill over 30 years, and this is a tragedy, right? They've got a house paid out, they've got cars, they've got cash, they've got their super, they've got some investments, they've got a partner or wife or husband, they've got children, they look perfect. And in 1 second or overnight, because of the marriage breakdown, they lose it all. So they lose the house, they lose the cars, they lose the children, they lose their partner, they lose their money, and they come crashing down to ground zero. And for somebody who's done 20 years of building or 30 years of building or even 40 years of building, to have that crack in the marriage and see the whole castle or the whole mountain of success crash to ground zero, it's something, words for me observing is something that it's words can't describe what I see or what I feel about it. And that was also one of the motivating factors for me to write this book. But you're right. There's many things. There's the lack of time, uh, fatigue. The Bible talks about Sabbath rest. A lot of people don't believe it now. They say that's in the Old Testament, but it's very important to take that 1 day or 2 half days to really rest. And during the rest, you don't just do nothing. You actually intentionally spend time with your spouse or spend time with your children, or spend time with your loved ones. And a lot of executives sacrifice the children and the family for the business success. So to have that wheel of success, there's a lot of spokes. You got a centrifugal, the center of the wheel is you, but you got different spokes going out of the wheel. And it's not always, this might shock some people. It's not always God first, then my wife, then children, then my work, then me. No, no, no. Actually, the wheel goes around. So it depends what circumstances it is. Sometimes the business collapse. So the priority is the business to build it up. But sometimes the business is cruising, and that time maybe you've got young children, and you need to pull away from the business and spend time with them. Maybe they are struggling, they are going through the world, and the world is sending out very confusing signals, and the children are very unsure, so then it's a pull away from the business, and the wheel has to rest on the family side of things. Sometimes, maybe your partner or spouse has a health issue, so the wheel has to turn, and the priority is your partner. So it's really a balancing act, and it depends on how the wheel goes. You could get a wheel that's balanced all around, or sometimes the wheel stops on a certain area in your life that needs more attention than the others. And you're the center of that, the centrifugal force. So when I think if people can say, all right, say for example, I'm a child of God and I'm serious about making my life a success. I've got different parts of my life. One of them is my business. One of them is my entrepreneurial activities. One of them my ministry. But a big part of it's family. If my family is not intact, all of that breaks down. So I need my family as a very, very high priority. So I think if I can give this, Jobby, just a freebie, what's your vision for the family? A lot of people don't have the vision. So if they don't have a vision, you'll hit something, but you'll hit nothing, right? So if you have a vision of nothing, you will have nothing. So I think a lot of families they fail because the dad or the husband doesn't have a vision, or the wife doesn't have the vision. And because of that, they don't plan, they don't prioritize, they don't hit milestone growth. There's so much in it. And I tell you another big one, Jobby, is the inequality in the roles. So a lot of people look at one partner is superior, one partner is inferior. That's not the right thing to look at. It's actually equality, but different roles, right? So
Right. So,
yeah,
yeah.
different. And if you look at the different roles, and just make sure everybody plays their roles well, then again there's harmony, and everybody's using their strengths. The people with the strengths cover up the other people's weaknesses. You know what I mean? So it's a lot in there. Hey, it's a huge topic. Lots of.
I love it. You're very passionate, Joyce, and while you share, but and thanks so much for that. What's your vision for your family? If it's one key takeaway from today's live stream as you watch this, if you're watching it on hashtag replay, please put in hashtag replay. But have a day, maybe take a date night with your wife or with your spouse, or with your children if they are grown up, and let's discuss it over prayer time. What's our vision for our family? Like he said, like Joyce mentioned, if you don't set the bar, then what are you aiming towards? What's the goal? What's the outcome? So thanks, Joyce, for sharing. And you did mention a bit about I think chapter 8 about sex, but in terms of as we explore the importance that you mentioned in the book about emotional and physical intimacy, what's one truth that couples often overlook about lasting intimacy, right? So what does intimacy mean, and how do you actually navigate that through your.
That's a good one. Like we understand, like for guys, they are stimulated by sight. Okay, so and guys are very quick, so they can just go, they switch on, and they're like, yeah, I'm ready for intimate time, yeah, physical intimacy. But a lot of guys, what they don't realize, that for the women or for the females, the way they're wired up, the way they are created with the physiological and the psychological and the emotional makeup, women are actually stimulated by the friendship, the companionship, the time spent together. So I tell people, right? So the guys are like, all right, I'm ready now, and the women's like, no, 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 I need 5 days to get ready. And it's a bit crazy, but if the husband is nice to the wife on Monday, and on Tuesday, and on Wednesday, and then Friday, she becomes a ferocious lion, and of course the couple have a lot of fun. But if the husband neglects the wife Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, come Friday, don't expect the wife to be ready for anything. So and I think that's the beauty of a relationship, and this is the divine uh design. This is God's design, right? So he created the man a certain way, he created the women a certain way, and together it's a thing about serving each other. Love is to give and not to take. It's not a selfish thing, right? So the wife usually, I'm speaking generally, many women serve the husband, serve the children, but a lot of men, they want to be served. That's actually not biblical as well, in a sense that we're actually supposed to serve each other, not like lord over the other. So some women lord over the husbands, some husbands lord over the wives, but that's not a good, healthy way. Yeah. So if the women serving the husband with meals and the household stuff, and some women might be working full time as well and looking after the kids and the household and the meals, the husband, if he can put on the hat to say, you know what, I want to serve my wife, I want to serve my kids. So the husband might say, hey, I want to serve you by listening to you. I want to let you speak your 50,000 words quota that you need every day. I'm just going to listen and be attentive. That is actually the foreplay, if you like. Like a lot of people don't think that. But if guys can realize, the foreplay starts on Monday when I'm listening to her blab 50,000 words. On Tuesday, she's blabbing again. But Friday, she's ready, and we have a wonderful time. So there's a lot of dynamics there, and a lot of people don't realize that, because we live in a fast-paced world. It's a microwave, in instant gratification, but it's not lasting. It's not legacy. When you build intimacy, or legacy means time. It means sustainability, right? It means fruitfulness over a long period of time. You need to learn the art of, you do life together. It's a dance, it's a dance
Mm,
together. So if people
mm,
can understand that and just say, yeah, okay, we want to have physical intimacy, but it doesn't just happen 5 minutes before you take off your clothes. It's a lot more than that. The friendship actually feeds the beauty and the enjoyment in the physical intimacy. The companionship, the 100% presence. I'm present with you. A lot of people don't even have that presence. Yeah. And just the communication, the beautiful, the intercourse is not just a physical intercourse. The intercourse is also in the friendship. Like, we talk to God and have that intimacy with God is so beautiful. And when we see miracles happen in our life, well, same with your husband and wife. The intercourse is in the verbal, is in the presence, being
mm.
attentive. All of that is also part of physical intimacy. So yeah, it's a lot there. And of course, the book, I should already have done 2 sequels or 3 sequels, but it all takes time. So
Absolutely. And now, by hearing you, I'm sure a lot of our members would be fans of the book already because of the content that you're providing. I'm sure you have to have, and I'm getting few names already, because you did use the word, you did use a lot of ships, friendship, companionship, but you also did use the word family ship.
hmm.
So I think there's something that's divine around the family ship as well. So thanks, Joy, for sharing. And also, while I was going through snippets of the book, you did mention about in-laws, so even about enjoying your in-laws. So
Yeah.
what are some practical ways that we could set boundaries while maintaining peace and connection with our in-laws, Joyce?
Yeah, I think the practical thing, very important for husbands and wives to know that they should be the priority. I think I've also done a lot of divorce cases where the man and the woman, the husband and the wife, they love each other. But maybe the man's mom wants to really oppress his wife, and he has to make a choice, and he has to choose his wife over his mom, or choose his mom over his wife. And I've seen husbands who've chosen the mom over the wife, and then they land up in the divorce. Of course, every party is miserable, right? And some women as well, they choose their family over the husband. So it's important right at the get-go to say that the new family unit is husband, wife, children. That's the family unit. So parents-in-law, they're actually outside the family unit. They're good friends. They're definitely immediate family, but they're not part of the family unit as such. So even nowadays, people can't afford housing, so they have mom stay in the house, they have dad stay in the house. It's when you go into family, you go into husband and wives, and then you go into children, you go to in-laws. what I found is a lot of planning. I think people have to realize that the work is in the planning. It's in the sitting down, planning, putting things, making, charts or timelines, or you got to plan it out. So you need to put rules of engagement, tell people, okay, maybe after 8 o'clock, no talking because I need to spend time with my wife, or no talking because I need to spend time with my husband. You can talk the whole day, but after 8 o'clock, sanctified time for family. And if they're staying in the same home, so you can watch your TV, you can go out with your friends, but 8 o'clock onwards. It's I'm just pulling things out of the air. But you need to have rules of engagement. The boundaries are very important. And I think you work out the values, I love my mom and dad, but they cannot make a decision about my family without my input. And I've seen that happen. I've seen some parents try to sell properties, under the noses of their children, and their children don't even know. It's incredible. It's crazy. But in-laws can make or break relationships. So if in-laws know that they are friends, no longer um, parental covering, that's important to know. So the husband and wife need to form their own covering, and the parents, instead of sitting on top, they're actually come alongside but outside. They're on the same level now. And
Yeah.
some people actually, like I tell some of my clients, don't call your mom and dad. Call them by their first name. So say, for example, call them Bob or Margaret. It is a bit weird, but it's a bit of a psychological signal to say, hey, we're on the same level now, and I can always come and consult with you. But if you want to speak into my life, I need to give you permission to do that, right? Because um, now we get into a little bit of reality here. A lot of people want to control. So some husbands want to control the wife, some wives want to control the husband. A lot of parents want to control the children or the children-in-law. When you talk about control, um, you know, I don't know whether this is erasable or whatever, but I think in the biblical context, it's tantamount to witchcraft. And we don't want that in a family where you invite these kind of vibes into the family. Yeah, so people trying to control other people, that's a problem. And that leads to a lot of mixed messages, a lot of confusion, a lot of unclear boundaries, blah, blah. So I think if husbands and wives can speak to their parents and have the discussion, it may be unpleasant, but have the discussion to say, hey, um, you can't control me anymore. You can't control my finances. You can't control when I go out and when I come home, which country I visit, and which, you can't do that, and vice versa. I can't control your life, but hey, we can consult with each other, but please give me the opportunity to make my own mistakes. Let me fall if I have to. And for parents, it's very hard. It's like, oh, I can see them heading for disaster. Just put on the mask, don't put it here, put it here. See nothing and just come alongside and do the wound dressing and the band-aids when people make a mistake. But I think one thing to look out for is control. So if people are trying to control other people, even God doesn't control us, right? I think we are very clear on that. And He gives us free choice, but we yield to His will willingly because we can trust Him. So after a while, with husbands and wives, that's what happens. We yield to each other. And I think if you read Ephesians chapter 5, verse 21, before it says, wives submit to your husbands and all that, it actually says submit to each other, submit one to another. So we want to submit to one another, have the submissive attitude. And then, yeah, the whole book of Ephesians is actually everybody submitting to everybody, but we play different roles. So if we all play our role well, and we submit to each other and be submissive and we love one another, yeah, we'll have a little bit of a utopia, and why not?
Mm,
Why not?
mm, mm. Wow, I love that, being submissive to one another, but also having rules of engagement, right? So, and also calling your parents by the first name. I haven't heard that, but it just makes logical sense, right?
Yeah, a bit weird, but it
It's
makes sense.
very weird, especially in our culture.
Yeah.
And also as we now become parents as well and then become in-laws as well, right? So I see that transition
Correct.
happening.
Right.
We need to completely take that step back as well. So I'm sure there's a lot of value in that, Joyce. And I know we are running out of time. So one last question for someone watching who may feel like their relationship is on the brink, Joyce, what hope or advice would you offer right now to them?
Okay, so thank you, Joby. Your questions are incredibly loaded. There's so much in there. So very, very good, stimulative questions. If people have marriages on the brink right now or on the rocks, right? It's usually hard because there's a lot underlying. You see the surface and it's cracking, but there'll be a lot of undercurrents before coming to the surface. What I would say, number one, take a step back and look at how much love is being expressed. It's interesting to know that if people are willing to eat humble pie a bit, take a step back and just look, just say, okay, like if I and my husband were having this massive fight, and I'm always pointing the finger that you're wrong. If I take a step back and I go, okay, you know what? Where am I wrong? Am I being loving? And when you really look into it, ask the Lord for help. Holy Spirit, shine your light on my life and show me. I tell you what, if you ask the Holy Spirit to help, He will show you this massive list of things, like for me, massive list of things that I'm doing wrong. I'm being unloving. I'm being harsh. I'm being unforgiving. I'm being brutal. I'm being blind, blind and blindsided. It's incredible how much things turn around when I say, you know what? I'm going to take personal responsibility. I know the relationship is on the rocks, but let me take personal responsibility. It's very hard to eat humble pie. All right, let's start from me. For me to get rid of my pride, for me to go and say sorry, for me to say, you know what? What can I do different? How can I diffuse a situation with love without being a doormat? Okay, it's intelligent love, it's not callous love. You have to be very intelligent because your goal is not to please the other person. Your goal is to save your marriage, right? And sometimes it's so dynamic. Some people, like the other party, might be in a place of stupor. And you speaking nicely is not going to work. You need to yell. You got to go, you yell at them to go, wake up! Get out of this state of, the what little animal is it that's just walking really slowly, like get out of slumber, get out of ignorance. Sometimes you have to wake the person up, but a lot of times is being very gentle, being loving. Sometimes you need a power session. You need to go and confront your partner and say, hey, come on, we need to talk about this issue. And the partner's yelling and you're yelling, he's or he or she's crying, you are crying. You have timeout sessions, and then you come back again and you have a bit of a sparring. It's so much, but if you keep the goal as how do I save my marriage? I'm going to do whatever it takes to save my marriage. Let the Holy Spirit come in. He's got the wisdom of Ancient of Days, yeah? And he instituted this marriage covenant relationship. He knows how to resolve it. But if we are willing to be obedient, we are willing to eat humble pie, it's amazing what miracles can take place. So I've actually helped a few couples who've come to me. Their marriage is extremely on the rocks. They are so upset with each other. And just through the prophetic insight, through putting things out, drawing little pictures and explaining things, they're all okay today, I remember a couple, they were on the brink of divorce. It came to me. I did a bit of work with them, and then they asked me to baptize them. So I baptized them in their bathtub, and they're okay now. So don't give up. Don't give up. I would say fight for your marriage, fight for your relationship. It's worthy of saving. It's very valuable, and miracles can happen. So people change. Just know that people change. Okay. Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. Those words, that advice. So, friends, if you want to get in touch with Joyce, I'll put down the links below this session, so you could actually get Joyce details, jklawyers.com.au. But please, if you want to have session with Joyce, please feel free. You've heard the value that Joyce has given today. But thank you so much for pouring out your heart and your passion, and making that impact. Like, God has given that divine intervention, that you need to be playing this role, this important role of bringing back families together. Because, like you said, families are important, and they're just an important unit of God's creation as well. So, thank you, Joyce, for your time and for blessing us. And definitely, like we said, if you want to get the books as well, reach out to me. I'm happy to get it organized with Joyce. And Joyce, we are on. Let me know when you're back, and definitely we'll catch up, and look forward to seeing you after your trip at Tanzania. Be a blessing as always to many out there, and can't wait to catch up with you soon, Joyce.
Thank you,
God bless.
Joby. Thank you so much.